You know those e-bike review videos where somebody stands next to the bike, maybe in their garage, and talks about it? Or at best they ride it in a parking lot. They probably just got it out of the box. Well, this is not that kind of review, and that is not my style. This is the RadMini Step-Thru 2. It is a folding commuter e-bike, and I've been wanting to get an e-bike for many years, but years ago when I first looked at them, the prices were outrageous for what they offered a rider like me 10 years ago. Now I'm 10 years older. I'm not the rider I was 10 years ago, and I can use a little bit of a boost getting up some of these hills. More importantly, this is my wife's commute to work. This very trail right behind me. She's a physical therapist and spends 8 hours a day treating patients, and she found after 14 years of commuting on this path to work and back that the hills were just wearing her out too much for her to have the energy she wanted to put into her patients. And when she had a really tough day, getting home was a chore more than a workout. It just stopped being fun for her. And I told her, honey, we've got a solution. We can get you an e-bike. It'll be kind of like a mountain bike with an electric motor that'll provide you with some help when you want it, but it won't when you don't. And then when things get really bad, it'll have a throttle so you can just sit back and relax and let the electric motor do all the work. I did a ton of research on all the different e-bikes that are out there, and there are lots of really good ones, but we settled for this because of its price, because of its features, and because of its flexibility and sizing. It'll fit my wife, who's, I think, 5'3", 110, maybe 115 pounds. She's teeny. And it'll also fit me at 5'8", 30-inch inseam, and about 190 pounds. It came from the factory with everything you see here except for the water bottle cage, and I don't even know if you can see that in a video, and that was a huge plus for us. It also came mostly assembled, and it only took me about 50 minutes to finish the job with the tools they included and the video they have on their YouTube channel. But before I show you how to put it together, I want to show you some of the features that made this bike our choice for our very first e-bike.
The RadMini Step-Thru 2 is an electric bicycle made by Rad Power Bikes, one of the most well-known American brands in mass-produced e-bikes. It's a Class 2 e-bike, which in part means it offers both pedal assist as well as a throttle for when you don't want to pedal at all. The Class 2 designation limits top assisted speed to 20 miles per hour, which is managed by a 7-speed Shimano drivetrain. The shifter is the Shimano Tourney thumb shifter, which is known for its large and accurate gear position display. It's mated to an Altus derailleur feeding a 7-speed 11 to 34 tooth DNP nickel-plated freewheel. The human-powered drivetrain is rounded out by a 48-tooth chainring with chain guide to keep the chain on the chainring and keep your clothing from getting in between them. Wellgo P256 aluminum folding pedals sit on the ends of 170mm cranks. Federal regulations limit Class 2 e-bikes to 750 watts, and that's what you get. If you're new to e-bikes, that's equivalent to 1 horsepower, which might not sound like much compared to a gasoline engine, but it's hecka strong compared to your legs. However, the Bafang hub motor is optimized for the RadMini and outputs 80 Newton meters or 59 foot-pounds of torque. It's activated by a 5-position cadence sensing pedal assist when you want some help, or by a twist throttle when you want to take a break and let the single electronic horsepower do the work. The 48-volt Samsung battery is good for 14 amp hours or 672 watt hours, which will power you for a minimum of 25 miles, but in practice you can get many multiples of that range if you provide your own power for the easy parts. Charge time tops out at 6 hours with the included 120-volt power supply. The stoppers are Tektro Aries mechanical binders grabbing 180mm rotors. Motor inhibitors at each brake lever cut power as soon as the brakes are applied, with that signal also activating the brake light whether the lights are on or off. RST supplies a Springer front shock with a generous 60mm of travel, as well as compression adjust, preload adjust, and full lockout. The RadMini's 20-inch aluminum rims wear 3.3 3-inch wide K-Rad tires developed by Kenda specifically for Rad Power bikes. Their puncture-resistant casings have a nice reflective sidewall stripe for safety. The 6061 aluminum frame is currently only available in satin white. It has a gray accent on the top tube that not only looks great, but is also protective, keeping you from scuffing the paint on the top tube every time you get on and off the bike. Mounting points at the front and rear can be used for proprietary accessory racks, though they also work with some aftermarket racks if they suit your needs better. The grips are brown synthetic leather with stitching that feels great under the fingers. A matching Velo plush saddle supports your caboose, as well as providing a sturdy handle for managing the RadMini's 69-pound total weight. When you want to park all that weight, the kickstand offers a nice fat pad to keep it from sinking in soft soil. It's mounted well out of the way of your heels should you forget to flip it up before riding off, and a quick kick will get it to fold with no noise or bouncing in its closed position even on rougher terrain. Rad Power Bikes ships their bikes mostly assembled with all the tools needed to finish the job. They also have really good videos that show everything you need to do to get a bike out of its box and under your legs. I watched the assembly instructions after placing our order, then watched it again right before attempting assembly, then followed along with it as I assembled the bike. Everything was packed exactly the same as it was in the video, which I think shows the same attention to detail in their instructions that I've seen throughout the bike's design. Note how I start by splitting the box at all 4 corners. It allows me to use all that cardboard as protection for my knees as well as protection for the bike if I accidentally knock it over during assembly. This is everything uncut, including having to set up a table with my iPad and some coffee, taking one more twist out of the cables after I started to install the handlebars, and telling my dog to stop barking twice. From when I hit record on my camera to when I hit stop was only 50 minutes. If you're mechanical at all, you'll have no problem assembling this bike. If you're able to understand what you see in Rad Power's assembly video, you'll have no problem assembling this bike. If you just don't want to deal with it, any competent bike shop will have no problem putting this together for you. If they aren't sure if they want to do it, forward them a link to the assembly video and they'll see it will be an easy 15 to 20 minutes for them.
The first hill that my wife has to climb is actually getting out of our neighborhood, which means that she doesn't get much of a warm-up before starting her ride. And I think that's a very nice use of pedal assist. I've got it on 3 right now, and it's still a little bit of work from the human powertrain, but I'm not killing myself just getting out of the neighborhood. Now I'm on level 4. That's a nice bonus right there. Because this is class 2, this is permitted on the same trails that other bicycles without an electric drivetrain are permitted on. The first part of my wife's commute is actually slightly downhill, or even a lot downhill, as you'll see. So this is just nice spinning without any pedal assist at all. I much prefer disc brakes over center pull brakes, and this downhill is the reason why. I'm shifting my weight pretty far back, hanging off the back of the saddle, and it's been raining, so believe it or not, this downhill is not as loose as it is when it's super dry. Things tend to cling together better. So that wasn't so bad at all. Gonna get some pedal assist to go up over this. Got 5 on there. And then right away I'm gonna back it down. I'm not a fan of thumb shifters like on this because it's too slow to shift, especially to downshift. I've got to take my hand off of my riding position and get my thumb up there to click it to the gear that I want. And I'd much prefer trigger shifters because you just pop to upshift, pull to downshift, and you don't have to move your hand at all. How are you?
Hey, love that bike.
Okay, I'm gonna be down in the granny gear and no pedal assist through here because I need to have really good control over the bike because it's a blind curve. Yeah, I don't like that, making a turn there and having to take my hand off of my grip to downshift like that. I'm gonna get some pedal assist now because it's gonna start going uphill. That was the end of the downhill on my wife's commute to work. Oh, that was really squirrely through that mud. But the fenders did their job. I'm gonna lose my phone here. One of the problems with the tapered bars is my mount is sliding down the taper and getting loose. I keep my eye on it. I find that I ride this very dynamically, which is not different than how I ride a mountain bike or a road bike. I'm constantly shifting with the gears to get the cadence that I want, to get the speed that I want. And then I'm constantly shifting the pedal assist up and down to get the effort that I want. Yeah, I am nervous getting on the brakes hard with these tires. So this is a gentle climb. I've got it on pedal assist 3. And I'm probably just going to be messing with the gears like here. Be helpful to be able to keep the buttons straight. I'm gonna come really far away from this dog if you don't mind. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful dog. That's actually a place where it's nice to have a throttle. Although there's no way you're gonna outrun a big dog like that. This section is really sandy and probably doesn't look it on video. It still looks hard packed and a lot of it still is, but you'll hit these really sandy loose spots. That's another place where I wish I had a knobbier front tire to get a little more confidence in the biting of the front tire. Like those washouts right there, that's scary to hit with these tires. Thank you. It's nice to use a little throttle to get away from tight spots like that you might slow down for. I don't want pedal assist when I need to maneuver at slow speeds because I want to make sure that I'm controlling the amount of torque I'm putting down precisely with my legs. And you just can't do that with pedal assist. All right, so I got this in a better position. It's not ideal, but it's actually not pinching any cables. There's plenty of slack, and that should keep it in position. The display actually glares a lot, so I'm not surprised it's not showing up really well on the camera. And in certain light, I even have to move my head around to see it. I think it could benefit from a satin screen protector, and I think I'm gonna do that. You can buy them in sheets and cut them to size. It's nice that it has USB power output. Say you're camping in a remote location, you don't have to worry about figuring out how to charge your phone, because you can charge it while you're riding, and by the end of a pretty ordinary ride, you should get your phone to a full charge. It's 5 volts, 1 amp output, which is not quick charging. But it will also power your phone when you're using it as a GPS. In more remote locations, phones can drain very quickly. But if you're relying upon it as a GPS, you want to make sure you keep it powered. This has, like all Class 2 e-bikes, a limiter at 20 miles an hour. For the assist. You can ride faster than 20 miles an hour by pedal, but the motor shuts off as you get close to 20 miles an hour. It eases off the amount of assist you get, and then it goes to 0 by the time you hit 20 miles an hour. That's for pedal assist or throttle. I'm gonna be able to get across here. And I just use throttle. That's a nice bonus. The pedal assist is nice at speeds even when it's really flat, because you sit so upright, you're gonna catch a lot of air, and you have to pedal against that. So to be able to maintain a good spin like I do at around 20 miles an hour, even when it's flat, I need to be bumping into that pedal assist as my speed drops. It's very handy. Here's another intersection where having throttle is super handy. It's a safety feature. You can actually see there's parts of cars from an accident over there. I do not want to be in this intersection any longer than I need to. And using the throttle to get going was very nice. Very confidence inspiring. Yeah, these tires are fantastic on pavement. They corner nicely. You don't have any bumping or chattering. That's the drawback to Knobbies. When you try to corner on a road like this, you get some chatter sometimes. The fork suspension is nice on this. I've been very happy with it. But you have to use your legs as the rear suspension over speed bumps like that. 20-inch wheels are a trade-off for their size. It makes a very nice compact bike. You can make a smaller frame for kids or smaller riders, but they are empirically squirrelier than larger rims are. And that's because, especially when you're pedaling, you tend to rock back and forth a little bit, and every time you lean a wheel, it makes an arc where it contacts the ground. And the smaller the radius of your wheel, the tighter that arc is for the same amount of lean. And so that means that as you're doing your normal bobble left and right with 20-inch rims, your bike is going to be swirling back and forth more than with the 26 or even 27-inch rims that you can get on standard mountain bikes. One of the nice things about a twist throttle is it has kind of a built-in cruise control. You just adjust your grip and hold on, and you can keep that throttle wherever you want without really any more effort than just your normal grip when you're riding. You're not going to wear your thumb out holding the throttle down for a long period of time on your ride. At 20 psi, these fat tires have a really nice ride to them. It would be a lot of rolling resistance if I had to provide the power the whole time. I don't think I would like them then. But since I have pedal assist and throttle when I need it, I like having these down at 20 psi. This is a greenway, and it doesn't really have a posted speed limit, at least not in this section. The only reason I'm fine going 20 miles an hour here is because I'm not sharing it with anybody. But just because your e-bike can do 20 miles an hour with no effort from you, doesn't mean that you should just peg the throttle like I'm doing when you're around other people or even passing riders coming the other direction. I don't even like it when human-powered cycles come flying past me at more than 20 miles an hour. The swirlier tires does mean I have less confidence grabbing a water bottle. And back in my Ironman days, I had no problems grabbing water bottles from behind my butt while I was in aero bars with 26-inch wheels. But this is scarier with this setup. There's a lot of play built into the throttle where you can bump it moving your hand around and you're not going to actuate the motor. The other thing is there's a delay built in from when you hit the throttle and then the power kicks in. I think those are two nice little safety features. I don't see them as problems, I see them as benefits. It's not really different than any e-scooter that I've ever rented anywhere to get around, like Bird or Lime or something like that. They all have throttles that behave the same way. It's a nice little safety. So now this is the direction that my wife would ride coming home. We're back in that sandy area. It doesn't look it, but I keep hitting these patches of looser grit.
So the riding you're seeing is pretty much at the very edge of what this e-bike is intended for. It is not a full suspension mountain bike, but it's capable of going as fast as I'm comfortable with on these paths, and it transitions well to riding on pavement. However, the big hill from the beginning of the ride is the true test of whether or not this bike will benefit my wife, and this is what that looks like.
I'm going to do this with pedal assist on 5. Woo! That is a kick in the pants. Woo-hoo-hoo! That's fun. I can feel the rear tire slipping on this hill coming up too.
It turns out it's just a little too steep for throttle alone, but full pedal assist and the granny gear make easy work of it when combined.
And this is the last hill, which is our driveway, and it is also super steep. At least it's paved. Ooh. And it's doing it. That's 80 Newton meters of torque for you. Of course, the RadMini Step-Thru 2 is a folding bike, and the way you do that is quick and easy. First, you fold the pedals by pushing them in. They will be stiff the first couple times that you fold them. Right about there is a good position for them. There's a safety catch. You pull that up and then open the frame latch. I'm going to get the kickstand out of the way, and then you can fold the frame. It will sit on a kickstand of its own underneath the bottom bracket, and then open the latch for this is the tough part. There we go, for the stem. And that's it. It's not a bad idea to lock that latch out of the way as well. Unfolding the bike is pretty much just the reverse. You just need to make sure that you check every latch and you pull on it hard to make sure it doesn't pop open. It won't if you're not pressing the safety. This, you have to hold the latch down and flip the safety up. And then I'm pulling on the latch, making sure that it's not going to come open. And then these pedals, you can actually just slam down on them with your foot. I'm just going to show you with my hand. But it even says stomp right on them as the proper way to get them back in the operable position. This is the beefiest part of the entire bike. And it's not just the hinge that is impressive in its size. Look at these gigantic aluminum plates. They are 1/2 inch thick, and they're mated with these 3/4 inch posts and matching holes on the other side. When this gigantic latch is locked down, nothing is going to flex in this area. The cable looks like it's exposed, and you certainly do need to be careful about what might be bumping up against it as you move this around in a trunk or on a rack or something like that. But there's actually a lot of the bike that's probably going to hit something first. And of course, when everything is latched together, the cables are out of the way through the tubes and they're protected from damage. Like most folding bikes that I've come across, there is no latch, there's no mechanism to hold it in the folded position. It's just floppy. You've got to hold it with your hands when you're moving it around, or you can use this pretty ordinary Velcro strap that they give you and find 2 places to strap together. But the Rad community came up with a really nifty solution. This is just a 50-gallon tote from Headlight. I think it costs around 20 bucks. I'll link to it in the video description. And it is the perfect size to accept a folded RadMini. It keeps it out of all the junk that's on the ground. It keeps the junk that you might have accumulated on the bike yourself out of the back of your SUV or crossover, out of the closet that you might be storing it in. I think it's a pretty clever solution when you're going to be storing this in an upright position. Folding it up certainly makes it smaller, but it's still pretty bulky when it's folded up, whether or not you have it in a bin. And there's no escaping the fact that it is still 69 pounds. If you take the battery off, I think you could drop another 7 or 8 pounds. So then it's still 61 pounds, 62 pounds. And it can be a lot for one person to handle. We're going to give it a shot into this SUV. Not easy, but it is an e-bike. There's one more thing I need to show you, and I can't believe I almost forgot, but even with this folded up, it's not necessarily going to fit in the trunk of every car. Now, the Model 3 trunk itself, the volume is big enough to hold this bike when it's folded up, but the opening to the trunk is notoriously tight for the size of the trunk itself. So it doesn't actually make it past the lip into the trunk without me taking parts off that require tools. But that's with it folded all the way. With it folded partially, it will still fit in a lot of trunks with the back seats down. I'm gonna lower the seat. You can even take it off if you're worried about grinding it up. And then I'm going to fold the handlebars. And then I'm gonna fold the pedals. So they don't dig into anything, and now it should fit rather nicely in the trunk. Still 69 pounds of bike to move around by yourself, but it's certainly doable, and if you have somebody helping you, it'll be a lot easier. I do recommend getting paint protection film on the edge of your bumper, which I already have, and certainly if you lay a blanket over it while you're putting your bike in and out, it'll help keep some scratches off, but you still need to be careful getting it in and out of your trunk. Well, I like the factory saddle. My wife didn't. A lot of times when people think about saddle comfort, they think about wide, they think about thick, but that's not always the direction you want to go if you don't like a saddle you're sitting on. And that was the case for my wife. She's got strong legs, she's a smaller person, and so the width of the factory saddle actually made the edges cut into the back of her legs while she was pedaling, making it uncomfortable. So I just put her saddle from her old mountain bike on, and she likes this a whole lot more. I also mounted a cage in the factory location. What's nice is they include the hardware. Of course they need to, because if they didn't have screws in there, water would be able to get in the frame, and that's not a good thing. But it'll take any standard water bottle cage, and I just grabbed that out of my box of cages that I've accumulated over the years. And it's actually in a very good location to grab the water bottle, and it's also out of the way of your knees. You might think that you're going to hit that with your knees, but unless you're very bow-legged and your knees are crossing the down tube as it is, you're not going to have a problem with the water bottle being in that location. I would like to also show you the rear rack, because we wanted to get one with this bike, but they've been out of stock longer than the bike itself. I was finally able to just order one a couple days ago, but it's not going to be here for at least another week. It's going to be really nice because it'll allow my wife to get her stuff off of her back and onto the bike. It's going to be more comfortable for her neck especially. The racks are also very nicely color coordinated. We went with the black because I like that look better, but you can also get it in a nice orange that matches the contrasting trim on the side of the bike. And best of all, the size of the racks that they provide are small enough that you can fold the bike and they won't get in the way. I've also ordered the Kenda Crusade knobby tires. These are fine for riding on the pavement, and they're fine for most people who are going to be riding on gravel that's flat. But there are a lot of places with loose gravel and steep downhill grades, and the back end just skids all over the place. And then there are lots of washouts and ruts that the front tire doesn't feel like it's getting enough bite, and I don't want that to wash out while my wife is riding. So I'm going to put the Kenda Crusades on when they get here. For now, my wife is okay riding with these, but we really do need a more off-road worthy tire on this bike for the way my wife's going to use it. The 80 lumen headlight is also something that we don't think is adequate for my wife's needs. It looks nice and it's going to be fine for riding at night where there are street lights and things like that that's actually illuminating the road in front of you. But if you're actually riding in the dark, 80 lumens doesn't throw enough light to see the trail out in front of you, to see the road out in front of you, to be safe, especially at the speeds that this throttle alone is capable of providing. My wife doesn't need a light just yet, but
It'll only be a couple weeks before sunrise is late enough that it's going to be kind of dark when she leaves for work. And then once the time changes, I think it's November 1st this year, she's going to be coming home in the dark, and she's going to need a real off-road mountain bike light. They're not that much on Amazon, so we're just going to get one and put it on the handlebars. I remain impressed with the value that you get for $1,500 MSRP with this bike. I think the build quality is nice. I really like the attention to detail in the design itself. And I think the components that Rad Power Bikes selected for this are very appropriate. Of course, it costs less than what we paid in 2006 for that mountain bike, but that mountain bike has much higher end components, and those components are probably a lot higher end than my wife needed for the kinds of riding that she ended up doing with it. If you want to learn more about the RadMini Step-Thru 2, or you want to buy one for yourself, be sure to check out the link in the video description and pinned in the comments below. Using the link helps support the channel. Be sure to subscribe so you can see my next videos on electric bikes and related accessories. I really appreciate you watching The Tech of Tech, and I hope to see you next time.